What's up, everyone? It is Throwing Light. And if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. I am LTJ Reeds. I'm your host. And tonight, we're going back over to Australia to interview our next guest here, which is going to be Mr. Australian Leather 2023 Shane Stevens. That's over in Brisbane, Australia. I got to ask some questions about this before we started the interview. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. As you know, we had Igor over, my INO brother, that was Mr. Sydney Leather, who was over in Sydney. So, this is going to be a completely different comment that we're going to be discussing, but it also points out the diversity of all of our landscapes. And we also know that not all Leathermen are created the same. We all have our different experiences. But I would like to go ahead and welcome Shane Stevens to Throwing Light. Hey, Shane, how are you?
Hello, Lewis. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on. Thank you.
I know this has been anticipation for a long time now. So we are
It has.
finally here. It is December. You are chilling. I see your Christmas tree behind you.
Yep, we got the Christmas tree up. I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of year.
Mhm. Okay, for our people in the United States that are following me, they celebrate Christmas over there, okay? Okay. Learn about other cultures, y'all. Okay. You find some similarities and some commonalities. So I also see your wonderful leather gear behind you and your sash. So over there,
Yes.
you get to keep your sash forever?
Yes, I do get to keep this one. Yeah, yeah.
And you said this one. Was there another one you were wearing?
Yeah, so I had a previous one, which was Queensland Leather Boy 2019 and 2020. And that was what's the word for it? It gets handed down per year. So you don't get to keep that one.
Yes. I am the first of mine that actually have made the one after me to be passed down, but mine, the original one, still exists. I actually have it, but we're going to frame it at some point, I believe, or whatever. But I'm holding on to it. But actually, the powers are still activated. To honestly, it says 2024. So I got like 3 weeks left, and maybe. But I kind of feel like it's kind of like I don't know if you have like Power Rangers over there or something like that, where you like grab your sash, but it's morphin' time, and then like if I need to come back, like help some situation in the future. Be like leather power, Mr. Austin Eagle, and be like that. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is going to be an interesting question because we're actually Shane was born in the UK in England. So I think what would be a great way to start this interview is how you went from England to Australia and how is it related to your experience becoming a community leader?
Yeah. So I was born in England, southeast England, and then I moved here 8 years ago. I moved to Brisbane, Australia, 8 years ago with $600 in my pocket and two suitcases on a one-way flight. And it was make or break for me to start afresh. My parents had previously moved over here 6 months prior to me, um, and they definitely inspired the move, said it was great. I'd never been here before, not even on holiday. And it was definitely different for them to move over here and me to move over here. They moved over here, basically retired with enough money to, fund their lifestyle for the remainder of their life. Me, I had to come over here, find jobs, find my place in community, and those kind of things. So and really Australia is really where I've thrived in the leather community. It's where I found a leather community, for sure. I've always been kinky, but to actually find an in-person space, that was a big thing for me, and that was a real turning point.
My first question, you said you left the UK with a one-way flight and two suitcases. Is it that easy to get citizenship over there? Because I need options because Trump's about to take power over here. And if it's that easy, I
No,
mean
it is very
I
difficult.
could get two suitcases in a one-way flight. I'll come over there.
Hey, I've got a spare room; it'll be fine, or a dungeon,
So
either or.
what was the process of that?
I was very fortunate that my grandparents were born in Australia, so my father had a citizenship. So I got citizenship by descent. Still wasn't easy, and definitely immigration into Australia is not easy, and getting those citizenships is not
Can you
that
give
easy.
us, can you enlighten us a little bit on what the citizenship process was like for you?
For me, my father had to be here for 700 and odd days before I could apply for citizenship. At the time, he wasn't, so there was a bit of a delay and a bit of a mess around. Basically, there was a moment for me which was super stressful because I'd already been here 2 years, um, and I had to be here for those 2 years. But it was a situation for me. Within 24 hours, I even had to get on a plane back to the UK and pack up my entire Australian life and leave my parents behind, or I was allowed to stay and granted citizenship. So it was pretty tough with all the restrictions. For many others, they've got to stay here. You got 2 years. You can get a working visa for 2 years, which means you do have to do like 90 days of regional farm work type stuff. So like fruit picking, that kind of stuff out on a farm, which helps the Australian economy,
So
I guess, and the
you,
farmers and all those
so
things.
for, I'm sorry. So for 90 days, you have to go pick fruit.
Yes,
That's every
but
90. That's part of the plan. You go pick.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, and they basically that allows you to stay for your second year visa.
So physical labor is what you have to do.
Pretty much, yes, yeah.
Huh.
It's
Interesting.
an adventure. It's
So
definitely an adventure.
is there a requirement to know history or constitution or
No, no, not as far as
government
I'm aware.
related information that you need to know how the government functions or anything like that?
No, I think it's fairly the same as it's very much an English style government that we have. Um, so it runs on that kind of UK basis, being a Commonwealth country. The biggest thing that we have over here is definitely there is turmoil with the Aboriginal people, the original owners of Australia. And I think our generations are really coming around to start respecting that and start connecting with the Aboriginal people. So that's really, really important culturally. Something to remember when you do visit Australia is to try and connect with all of the cultures here.
That is something that we are really struggling with in this country is that people don't want to connect these different cultures, and it's just very just it's very interesting. But it's nice that it's nice to hear that y'all's generation now is recognizing trying to connect with Aboriginal people. If you're watching the show, you're in my country or anywhere, you're not sure what that is. I mean, the Aboriginal people have been there just as much as we, say our Native American tribes actually owned our land before. People with the same energy that's coming into power kind of just killed them all. But I won't be throwing shade like that right now. But let's say it's that kind of energy, taking things that don't belong to you. So that's literally what's happening. People taking things that don't belong to them, and punishing the people that they're taking the things from. So it's nice, like I don't think anything that I think the most traumatizing thing that we had in our country that had to deal with race and the treatment of other people obviously was slavery in our country and the treatment of African Americans. I mean, yeah, I mean, and it's something they're actually trying, the new people, the new criminals coming into power are wanting to whitewash history and take away these things that happen that need to be spoken and true. And they're going back to what I call as mental slavery, because they don't want us to know that we can have freedom. And they definitely don't want us to know that we can control our money. Like we can ask for things, we can see receipts. We're just not having those conversations here in the United States. That open dialogue right now, it's just a very like closed dialogue on this side, closed dialogue, and these dialogues aren't speaking and they're refused. Well, there's just one side that's just really refusing to be cooperative in terms of making the country better for everyone. They just want it to be for certain people. And it's unfortunate that we're going through this, but I believe in karma, you know.
Oh, and
Um,
relating that back to the leather community in many senses is why I love seeing the American leather culture currently, and it's especially its last kind of few years to see people of color and different nationalities, people from different countries, people from Latinos and those kind of people that are actually taking leadership roles and titles in the leather community in America, it really is taking a little bit of power back and yeah, really thrusting those kind of cultures into the spotlight, which I really, really love.
How has I'm assuming that what are your differences between the leather culture that you experienced? Were you in leather culture when you were in England?
No, I wasn't involved in person. No, no.
Okay, so then tell us a little bit about leather culture in Brisbane.
So we actually have a fun fact. We have the longest continuously running leather club in the Southern Hemisphere here in Brisbane. And that is called the Boot Co. Brisbane. It's been
Boot
running for
Co.
the
The
Boot Co. Yeah,
Boot Co. Like company.
yeah, yeah,
Got
yeah. Fun fact: it's not a company. Anyway, but it's been running for 35 continuous years. Many other clubs have had a break, so that's why we have the continuously running one. That's where I found. It's where I cut my teeth. That's where, yeah, I found myself, my identity of who I am currently.
So,
Um,
what are some things about leather culture there that you think might be unique to your area?
I think Brisbane, Queensland, we have a very, very united uh, uh, group. There are many different groups that we have. We have a few different fetish clubs. We have Brisbane Rubber. We have the Hellfire Club. We have Queensland Leather Pride, which I'm currently president of. We have the Boot Co. And of course, we have the Bears as well. But all the leaders for the last, I don't know, 10 years, we've all really, really united, and we all talk to each other. We all communicate with each other. We all turn up to each other's events. And we also respect that two of those clubs are inclusive clubs, and we still turn up and we still support their inclusive events and celebrate the inclusivity. So I think that's a really big selling point for Brisbane, is that we are so united and so communicative with each other.
Um, in contrast, like, where do you see like other communities can improve on there? Like, what about the communication do you think would help other communities be stronger in communication?
I think all communities could do with more communication with each other, be that on a city level, be there multiple clubs in a city, be that on a state level or a national level. To especially with just silly little things like, and I know America definitely has it, Europe definitely has it. We have it here in Australia. A clashing of events. You'll put on a big event week, and then one organisation elsewhere would not have registered that, and therefore there's a clash. In which case, what you're doing is ultimately, by doing that and not communicating, you're kind of asking your community that wants to attend all of these events to pick and choose what they want to go to. And that not only is tough for the individual that wants to go to all of these events, it's tough for the organizations as well, because you're not getting the support that you could have had from everyone.
So, what was your time like, your year like as Mr. Australian Leather? What were some
Uh,
things that you felt you needed to kind of push during your title year?
well, my year has been incredibly busy. I haven't had a weekend where I haven't had a community event in the last 2 years. And sometimes 3 or 4 events in a single day on a Saturday or a Sunday that I'm trying to get to. The travel has been extensive around Australia. Multiple times I've been to many different cities and tried to explore as much of Australia as I can and connect with our communities. Something for my title year, there's a couple of things that I did. I've continued as a founder of 2 motorcycle clubs here in Australia. I've continued to push that and inclusion in those spaces, which is really important to me. And then the other thing that I did was a title holder forum which I'd been running for a few years here in Brisbane. And then someone came up. It was actually Igor and Mick. So Igor's partner, Mick. They came up. I invited them up as a guest 1 year to Brisbane for these forums, and they walked away uh, ultimately thrilled by it and said, "Do you know what? Why don't you take this interstate? The rest of the community around Australia needs to see this and to listen to what's being said by all of these people." So ultimately, what the forum is, and I've seen a few in America happen, is the idea was to get a few community leaders, be that title holders past or present, from all different years, rubber people, bears, all different cultures, bring them together in a room and basically sort of interview them in a way like we're doing now, but with multiple people on a stage. And it was about asking about competition processes, community leadership, experiences, highs and lows of leading communities. And the aim was ultimately to inspire the next generation of leather folk and rubber folk and bears leaders. That was ultimately the plan for it. So far, we've spoken to in that 12 months over 45 community leaders we've had in those spaces. So it's been incredible.
Let me try to help our viewers a little bit. Now, Canberra is the capital of Australia, correct?
Canberra, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that they have a leather community there.
Very, very small. Yeah, very small.
So your title is Mr. Australian Leather.
Yeah,
Is a that's a state title, correct? Like,
that's the national title. Yeah, yeah.
so what are some of the other? So you have Sydney, Mr. Sydney, obviously, which is Igor. What are some of the other titles in the community there?
So we've got South Australia, which is Adelaide. They hold three titles: Adelaide Rubber, Mr. Adelaide Leather, and Ms. Adelaide Leather. We have Melbourne, which is the Laird Leatherman. They also have Melbourne Rubber, who do incredibly well, and just got second place at MIR, or at the International Rubber. Then we've got Brisbane. We hold 7 titles here, I think, currently, one of which I introduced this year as president of one of the clubs.
Which title was
I
that?
felt so I introduced a title here as president, which was we've called it Queensland Kinkster. It's an inaugural year. It's been something in my brain for the last 5 years that I think the community needed. And the idea was gender inclusive, any identity, and also fetish inclusive, which was another really big point for me, because there are, there's pup titles, there's national pup titles here as well. There's pup titles, there's handler titles, there's bear titles, but we don't particularly have a rubber title here in Brisbane. There are other fetishes that don't get seen, and you may not identify as a leather. You might not fit into the other boxes. So if you don't fit into the other boxes, that's the title for you to really display and push what you're all about and what many other people that you are involved with might be all about as well. So
you just from talking to you, make Australia so exciting. I hope I can come over there and experience the community. I would love to. I'd love to come over there in any capacity. It just sounds like there's so many things going over there that like are good, that are great, that are progressive. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I know that we're doing here too, especially in my community of Austin. We do work really hard to be inclusive, and we are cognizant that we need female representation, trans representation. We are taking those steps here. I'm really proud of that. I'm not saying they're not doing it all over, but I know that some leather communities can be a little bit rigid in terms of what they think the male titles or the Miss titles should be and things like that. But I do, and one of my charges I want to lead in 2025. I would love to see a day where we remove the gender you know, completely across the board. Let everyone, male, female, trans, whatever, compete for the same titles. Now, I know I've gotten pushback where you're like, well, you don't have the same amount of people applying. And I get that, but if we create a culture where we're inviting everybody to come into the same space and be valued for the same leadership awards, that's going to grow the amount of people that feel that they're being heard and listened to. If we are like, okay, so like I would love to see, where it's just, uh like I don't know, like whatever gender neutral formality we need to say before whatever title we have. I would love to be that change that we want equality and all these things and we want to be treated equally. We have to do those things in our own community. Like we can't be hypocrites, you know what I'm saying? And I think in
That's
a lot
right.
of ways, that's why we're not making progress sometimes in our country, at least here in the United States, is the willingness to get out of our way and be like, I get a lot like, well, we're not ready. I'm like, you can't say we're not ready. That's the same thing that ignorant people that don't support us would say. They're not ready for us to get married. They're not ready for us to be. That's just stupid. Like, when are you going to be ready? Like tomorrow's not guaranteed. Me and you we could lose our life tomorrow. Like, and I don't get why people don't want to just do it now. There literally is, we don't have forever. So that's
And
kind of where I am right now, especially with 2025. I'm just like right now.
yeah, I faced that. I can relate to that. I faced that with this new title. I had community leaders ask me, where is proof that it already exists elsewhere in the world? Give me some proof. So I literally had to get physical proof that some of these communities actually need these spaces and these titles that are gender inclusive. And there was pushback for that. There was also this exactly what you just said. We're not ready. Maybe next year, maybe 2 years' time. I'd been thinking about this for 5 years. I noticed this 5 years ago. And I was like, why are we waiting? Just do it now. Yeah, you may make mistakes along the way, but you're not going to learn from those mistakes or even make those mistakes if you don't actually try. We can't be waiting for other people to do it for us.
It's
We've got
okay
to
to
be doing
make
it.
a mistake, though. It's okay to make a mistake, and you
Yeah.
can learn from the mistake. You no one's saying that you have to roll out of the gate and be perfect and land it. But if you first recognize there's a problem, that's a start. Okay, the execution of eliminating the problem could take a couple of
It
different
may not be instant.
strategies.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and you said you face pushback as well. I think many of us do in the community, and I think it's just change doesn't happen if we all stay quiet ultimately, and if we all wait for other people to do it. It takes people spearheading these things with a drive and motivation to just go ahead, do it with the best intent. That's the most important. Is you've got to have good intent behind it. Any changes, and you are going to face pushback. People don't like change. Be that older generation, be that new generation. It doesn't matter. I don't think it's a generational thing. I think it's just an attitude thing. People don't like change. And if you are facing pushback, 9 times out of 10, you're making a difference. And that's why you're getting pushback.
Yeah. So I'm going to say most of the culture is going to be on your eastern coast, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I see that you got other places. I know there are parts that aren't, I guess. Okay, so Adelaide is in South Australia. I see that. So is there anything active over like in Broome and Perth over in Western Australia?
Yeah, so Perth, they don't have a whole heap of titles, but they do have a good history of national title holders there. They actually have the current international puppy, Jax. He actually lives in Perth. They have Mr. Australasian Bear over there. They have, they have a bear title over there. They've got a huge pup scene, which has been growing and growing, probably the fastest growing pup community in Australia at this stage. It's been incredible to watch. They again have another national puppy there that just won about 6 weeks ago. So they have a really good, strong community. I've had talks with them regarding getting their own kind of pup titles and their own leather scene. They're not big enough, and we have to respect that. that's what comes from their own mouths. They're not big enough, or they're not ready, or it's not settled enough, and that's fine. And I'm just looking forward to the next few years and it potentially happening and coming to fruition. That's going to be really exciting and something that we need to support here in Australia for that to happen.
Okay. So this is, because I'm obsessed with distance, obviously, or whatever. Can people drive that?
Yeah, it would probably take you around 4 or 5 days to drive from
It looks
Brisbane.
like that's a long time. That's
Yeah,
longer than it would take for us to drive. Well, I guess. No, that's about okay. So, well, it's rare that people just randomly drive from New York to LA for fun, though. So I don't know. It's not
see, that's
that
not.
I think
It's
people want it. So, but I mean, but you would have to stop multiple times and get hotels and things.
Yeah, yeah. It would take you many, many days.
So you would
It,
fly majorly. If you were going to go there, you would fly.
yeah, yeah. It's about 4 hours flight from the eastern coast to Perth to the other side. And the scale of it is massive. It's the size of the entire, like the width of it is the same width as the entirety of Europe from one side to the other. So you could go in Europe, you can travel, as I experienced as a child, you can travel in just a few hours through 3, 4 different countries. Uh, you can travel here for 15 hours and still be in the same state.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the scale is massive, and also when you start getting into the outback and the centre of Australia, beyond the fringes of the coast, there is nothing out there. People don't understand the scarcity of anything that's out there. Towns, communities, they're very tiny when you start going beyond the coastal cities.
I saw an Australian horror movie. What was it called?
Not Wolf Creek, not that one.
Yes, it was Wolf Creek. I saw Wolf Creek. I haven't seen the sequel, but I've seen the first one. It was Wolf Creek. Yeah, yeah.
Allegedly based on a few different actual real stories that they fused together, apparently. So I've been told.
That is my impression. If I came there, I'd be like, I don't have to go to the Outback. I'm good. We can drive by. Okay, Shane, we are towards the end of the show, and every when I get my guests here towards the end of the show, I ask them the same question. I'm going to ask it to you. Is there any aspect of the community at large that you feel that we're not shedding enough light on?
uh, it's like this. I guess there's two things for me that I've personally experienced. One is the bullying in from within our own communities. Is incredible. I've faced it. I know many people that have faced it. It does need to stop. And by actually vocalizing that this stuff is happening, and even making examples of people that are doing it, we can definitely fight it. But it's not good. The bullying is terrible, and ultimately, it can cost a life, and that is the cost of bullying. And people don't realize that what might be a funny comment to you might end someone's life tomorrow. It needs to stop, 100%. The other thing that I just wanted to shed some light on as well is when you want to step into that spotlight, do it without ego. When you want to take leadership roles, do it without your own ego involved in it. Do it with the best intent. Our voices are a gift. And if we stand in the spotlight and try to be the loudest with nothing to say, it's pointless. So give the spotlight to those with positive intent, with those with purpose, those who actually have something to say in that spotlight. Give the spotlight to them instead of having your ego involved in it and doing it for self gain. And ultimately, lead with respect, lead with kindness, and lead with pride.
I totally agree with you. I don't know. I can kind of say that. I mean, you got bullying on the political scale. That's kind of what we're going through over here right now. So bullies are everywhere, and unfortunately, And and it's a lot of this like high school mentality, I guess, a lot that grows up, and well, they don't grow up. In a lot of ways, you find out that the world can sometimes work on very like not so great simplified way of how we approach things in life. I don't think that's always the best representation. All right,
Yeah.
Shane, I am so glad that I had you here. Oh, you got something else? Go ahead.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
Sorry. So I'm going to IML next year in May, and I just
I'll
want to
be
say,
there. Be there.
yes, I just want to say there are another three on top of me. There are three other incredible Australian ambassadors which are going, which is a record for Australian representation at IML. So to have four people there representing Australia is incredible. So for anybody that is going, please go and say hello to them, have those conversations. They are beautiful people. And I really hope that we will do well and the whole class does well and does our communities proud.
Y'all are going to do fine. I know some of the class coming up in y'all's class, even though I'm a class before. But I look forward to seeing you as I put on my kind of like IMO Class 46 reunion. You will be a part of IMO Class 47. Have a blast. And if you become number one, reach out while I'm there and ask me questions because I was contestant number one. And that's a journey, my friend. It's a journey.
I'll
All right.
reach
I
out.
thank you so much, Shane, for being on Throwing Light. I hope to work with you some more in the future. I can't wait to actually see you in person now pretty soon. I'll be here in a second, but I just want to thank everyone for watching, and we are towards the end. This has been Throwing Light. I am LTJ Reads, and if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Take care.